What's up, everybody? It's Cornhole Mish here, and we are getting ready for our next um, workshop here. So, welcome in, and I'm excited today. Last week, we talked about the what, or we talked about the foundations of goal setting that include the what. What do we want? And then the next logical question is, why do we want it? And this is a question that a lot of people look over. Like, what do you mean? Why do I want to lose weight? Duh, to feel better. I mean, so we just kind of like take that and move on. And I'm going to have you sit in this a little bit and explore it a little bit deeper so that we can get to the crux of what this why is. Reminder that if you are watching on Instagram, then you're seeing me. If you're watching on Facebook, then you're seeing slides. So you can do either option or both. But I'm excited to get into the why. Why do we want what we want? And how does exploring this deeper help us immensely in achieving our goals? And what happens when you skip over it? It's not productive. So let's get into it. Oops, I skipped a slide. One second. Here we go. All right. So let's talk about some of the whys. Like, let's use the weight loss example because that's the most common one. And if you want to lose weight and you start to tell yourself, well, I just want to feel better and I just want to be healthier. And by the way, I have done so many sales calls over the 15 plus years I've been doing this. And I always ask this question, okay, this is when I was just doing weight loss. And I'd say, okay, so why do you want to lose weight? That was the first question I'd ask. And everybody say the same canned answers. I want to feel better. I want to look better. I want to be healthier. I want to fit into clothes, etc., etc. And those are all like the surface answers. And I want to go a layer deeper. So on this slide, I wrote, if you want to lose weight because you don't feel attractive, we have to acknowledge that. You can't go into it and tell yourself, oh, I just want to be healthy. That's what this is all about. I don't even care about looking better. I just want to be healthy. Unless that's true. But I'd say for most people, it isn't. So we have to really acknowledge what the reasons are. And if we don't, then we're not, like I always say, wherever you want to go, you got to know where you're starting. If you don't acknowledge where you're starting, then you're not actually going to be on this journey long term. So we have to put it all on the table. So if you want to lose weight because you don't feel attractive, you got to acknowledge it. You don't have to tell other people. You just have to acknowledge it yourself. Let's see, another example. If you want to succeed in your career so that people notice how good you are, we got to acknowledge that. What is it about? Is it about success in your career, or is it about people seeing you be successful? That's two very different energies and starting points. If we aren't honest with ourselves about why we want something, we will have to majorly effort and force every step of the way. So we want to get to a place where we're starting with our goal setting is so authentic and real and vulnerable and honest that it's the actual starting place so that we can move from that place and get to where we want to go. But if we don't, then we're just, first of all, lying to ourselves, and then the path to get there looks so different because our starting place is a lie. It's not really where we are. It's where we want to be. Like, you might think, well, I want to be someone that just wants to be successful without anybody noticing. Okay, that's cool. That's a good goal because you're not now. So we got to get there. So let's talk about 5 simple steps for goal setting. First one is write your what you want, which we did in the previous video. If you joined me, we did the mind dump of writing what you want in each category: health and wellness, career and finance, social and relationships, and spirituality and faith. Now, the next step, still in step 1, is why you want it. Why do you want these things? Why is it important to you? Be honest. And then you look at those goals, and now we shift to feelings. So when you say, I want to lose weight, or I want to be successful in my career, what feelings come up? I know this is going to get, a place that maybe you didn't want to go, but guess what? You have to acknowledge them, because you might lie to yourself in terms of your thoughts and why you want to. You might say, oh, I just want to be healthier. I just want to be, successful, whatever. and those thoughts are going through your head. But if your feelings are the opposite of those thoughts, in other words, you say, I just want to be healthier, but then you feel like garbage, those are two different starting points. So we can't pretend we don't feel what we feel. We feel however we feel about the things that we want to achieve and the things that we want to change. So we want to look at what feelings come up. Now, the reason it's so important to acknowledge our feelings is because of something called the vagus nerve. I'm not going to get too deep into nervous system stuff, but I am going to give you a little crash course so that you understand why it's so important. So the vagus nerve controls the autonomic nervous system. So this is where you're going to have your nervous system responses. The one you're most familiar with is probably fight or flight. But that's not the only one. It's just the one we talk about the most. The brain and the body connection, which we have all sorts of research that supports that our brain and body are connected. They do communicate with one another, is connected through the vagus nerve. It's the train system, if you will, that moves information from one area to the next. So it goes through this vagus nerve, and this is probably the one that most people overlook. 80 to 90% of communication from brain body communication is from the bottom up, meaning the body communicates to the brain, meaning sensation comes before thought. A lot of people think it's the opposite. I have a thought and then I have a feeling or a body sensation. Like I'm scared, something's going to happen, and then I feel butterflies in my stomach or whatever. But it's actually 80 to 90% of the time the opposite. It's actually feelings are happening inside your body, whether you acknowledge them or not, and that's what triggers the thought, I'm scared. So when we don't acknowledge feelings, we are a lot of the times making it very difficult on ourselves to master our thoughts, because we might be trying all day long to do affirmations and change our thoughts and think positively, but we don't realize that the body is having a whole conversation underneath the surface, which is then dictating what our thoughts are. And so we're dealing with the brain without dealing with the body, which is going to be very difficult. So your body, think of as your feelings or your sensations. So I feel butterflies in my stomach. I feel my heart racing. I feel tension in my throat or my chest. I feel like energy in my legs, like they need to move, right? Like a flight response. So those sensations and feelings are most likely what's communicating to your brain. Now, like I said, I'm just going to do a quick crash course in nervous system work. I like to think about this as a ladder, and that was what was taught to me when I was learning nervous system work. And these are not the only states, but this is the three main states. And the one that the safe and social state is when we're in the ventral vagal, which is when you're feeling at home and you're calm and you're at ease and connected and you're in that flow state, you're present. It's easy to connect with people. Communication's easy. This is like the, sunshine and rainbows place that potentially you've never felt or you haven't lived there permanently. And maybe you're more likely to understand the sympathetic or the dorsal. And the sympathetic is that fight or flight. It's fear, anxiety, worry. You're constantly on edge. You can't sit still. Your thoughts are going around and around. Maybe your jaw feels tense, so there's heat in the chest. And then the dorsal vagal is the collapsed or immobilized, where you feel numb and disconnected and you just want to curl up in a ball. This is where depression happens. The body collapses. You could feel very hopeless. And we use the latter because if you're in, for example, the dorsal vagal state, in order to get to ventral vagal, you're going to have to venture through sympathetic or fight or flight, because that's the mobilization that you need to move into the latter. It's also to say that you're going to probably dance around these different states in all different times, right? I've experienced extreme trauma in my life, and I promise you, I definitely plummeted into dorsal vagal at that time, and that was probably what I needed. I needed to curl up in a ball and cry in the corner of my room because I just needed to be in that state for a period of time before I could get mobilized and then move out of it. So none of these are bad. We just don't want to get stuck in the sympathetic or dorsal. Just to kind of go into what you could experience, ventral vagal, it's gentle, it's easeful, it's spacious, it's relief, it's expansive, it's calm, it's connected, it's grounded. For my cornhole players, this is the state you want to be in when you're playing cornhole. This is the zone. your shoulders are, relaxed, and your breath is full and your hands are soft, which is important when you play cornhole because obviously you don't want to grip the bag tighter than you need to. There's an ease. It's not the bracing, like the tension and all that. There's more energy. And this is the state that if you really want to get into nervous system work and you are an athlete, this is the state that you want to really recognize when you're there, and then obviously recognize when you're not there, and notice how you can move yourself in and out. The sympathetic state, that's the fight or flight. Like I said, you could be, you could feel heat, tension, irritation, pressure, constriction, anxiousness, urgency, worry, panic. Some of the body movements is that bracing, the jaw clenching, the making fist, the can't sit still. This is the flight portion, right? The like wanting to run. I see this a lot when I watch cornhole players that they lose. It's like an immediate, just like, I gotta get out of here, right? That's the flight response. And none of this is bad. It's all very productive. It's just recognizing it. And then the dorsal vagal, like I said, that collapsed state, the exhaustion, the numb, the vague, the depressed, the alone, the withdrawn. The body movements is going to be a collapsed spine, so you are sort of rolling into yourself. It's wanting to lie down. It's rounded shoulders. It's folding through the middle. Your body physically is collapsing because that's the state that it's feeling, and this is going to dictate the thoughts and the feelings that surround that. So there are some blended states when we talk about nervous system. So if we have sympathetic and ventral, that's going to be a mobilized state, but instead of it being an anxious mobilization, it's actually a grounded calm. And this is actually the state you want for athletes, right? Because you want to be in the play state. You don't want to be like in a massage Zen state. You want to be like in a relaxed state, but you got to be mobilized. You got to be energetic. You got to be ready to go. So that's that play state. Then dorsal vagal with ventral vagal is when you're meditating and sleeping and relaxing. That's a deep stillness. It's no mobilization, but instead of that feeling like numb and disconnected, you're feeling actually very connected and relaxed and really good in your body. And then the freeze state is, in my opinion, the most uncomfortable because it's the sympathetic and the dorsal, which is mobilization and immobilization. So it's like you have all this anxious energy surging through the body and you could feel that, but then you feel completely immobilized, like you can't move. So you can't release the stuff. It's bracing. I feel stuck. I can't move. My muscles are tense and there's energy. So when I feel it, I'll be like watching, when I'm in this state, I'm watching TV, I'm trying to relax, and I feel anxious energy just surging through my body, and I have no desire to get up and move. So that's that freeze state that you might be familiar with. So before I hop over to the next step, the reason why I wanted to talk about the nervous system is because when you understand your body and your body sensations and what those different states mean, then you can start to recognize when you look at your goals and you write down your goals, check into which state you're in, right? So if you talk about, I want to lose weight, is that like I feel really calm and connected and grounded about that? Is it, I feel anxious and urgent and nervous about that? Is it, oh God, I feel hopeless and just want to curl up in a ball about that? Then you know what state you're in, so you know your starting place. Remember, that's the most important thing when it comes to understanding the why of goal setting is where are you starting? Where are you actually starting? Not where do you want to start, or where you wish you were starting, or where you wish your thoughts and feelings were, but where are you actually at? And that's when we can move to the next place. So once we understand our feelings and we understand that oftentimes feelings and body sensations precede thoughts, then we can move into, okay, what thoughts come up, right? So if I'm thinking about, I want to increase my revenues, I want more money, and then that makes me feel nervous and anxious and urgent. Like, I got to do it now. I got bills coming up. I got to make more money. I got to make it happen. So that's very sympathetic, mobilized state, which is good in the sense that it's going to give you motivation to do something. But the motivation is coming from fear, anxiety, worry, and that is not a good state to make decisions in. So that's potentially the feeling. And maybe the body sensations that accompany that is tension in the chest, feeling constriction in my throat, feeling swirling in my belly. So we're acknowledging the feelings, we're acknowledging body sensations, and then lastly, we acknowledge our thoughts. What is coming up when you think about these different goals? right? So in the ventral vagal state, that's the calm, connected, grounded. It's from fear based to slowing down. It's clear. It's not shame based. It's seeing reality. It's this situation is not wrong, not me. So, in other words, I'm where I am not because something's wrong with me, but because stuff has happened that has got me here. It's not me. I'm not personalizing it. I'm not attacking myself. I'm just saying I am where I am. And it's a result of things that have occurred. And that's not something I need to shame myself about. It's from feeling helpless to feeling like I have options. I can do this. I'm clear. I know what I'm doing. So those are the thoughts when you're in the ventral vagal. If you're in the sympathetic, it's going to be fear-based. Things are going to fall apart. This isn't going to work. I'm going to fall short. Bad things always happen to me. So it's like that very fear, anxious, worry. And then in the dorsal vagal, it's shame-based. This is never going to work. I'm bad. I'll always be alone. I'm helpless. There's no point in trying. I give up, right? And you're going to notice maybe when you start goal setting, you're one state, and then you might find yourself somewhere in this state at some point, versus when we give up on our goals. We give up on our goals because we didn't notice that we dropped into this dorsal vagal state in our nervous system, and we feel helpless and hopeless, and there's probably emotions and body sensations that preceded those thoughts before giving up. And the more we can become aware of what's happening in our bodies, what's happening in our brains, and watch it like an observer and say, oh, this is really interesting. Here's what I'm noticing about myself. This is happening, or that is happening, and this is why that's happening, and that's totally normal, and all I need to do is this. Like, just this complete observer mind is going to allow you to master the skill of setting and achieving your goals. The fourth step in setting your goals is to challenge your thoughts and process your feelings. So this is going into everything we've been talking about, right? Now you have acknowledgement of here's some of the thoughts, here's the feelings and body sensations. And are these thoughts true? Right? You know, if I have these thoughts about I'm not good enough, is this really true? Like, where is this coming? That's not true. You might have experiences or even voices in the past that have told you it's true, but it's not actually true. It's not how you were born. So we start to challenge that. And in terms of processing our feelings, there's some things we can do in each state. So that's why it's so important to know where you are. If you're in the ventral vagal state, congratulations. You're just going to recognize that and ground into that flow state and just be grateful that you're there. Here I am in a super, calm, connected state, and we can stay there by, deep belly breathing, meditation, being around others who have a regulated nervous system or pets, focusing on our breath, movement, deep tissue massage, allowing our body sensations, music. Contact points just means you notice all the contact points, like your feet on the ground or your sit bones on the chair, and you're just kind of acknowledging your body in the space. If you're in the sympathetic state, then the most important thing is to discharge mobilized energy to help you move to calm. And I'll go back to the cornhole example for this one because it's really blatantly obvious. Have you ever felt nervous? Or any athletic endeavor, or anything you're nervous about, honestly. But in cornhole, you can see it, right? You might walk up to the boards and you're nervous. So how do you know you're nervous? You notice your heart's beating faster. You notice that your thoughts are sort of racing. And then you might notice that your body starts to shake a little bit, or your hand starts to shake. That's actually an intelligent way the body is trying to discharge the sympathetic energy. So instead of being like, oh God, I'm shaking because I'm nervous, double down, shake your hand, shake your arms, jump up and down, move that energy, move that nervous energy through the body instead of trying to suppress it. We have to move it out. So shaking is my favorite way. When I feel that sympathetic fight or flight state in my body, which my body just dips in and out of that because I lived in it for most of my life. And as soon as I notice it, I stand up, I jump up and down, I shake, I move the energy out. It's also the sole reason I do cardio. That's it. I don't care about being, fast or having good endurance or running a marathon. I could care less about any of that. I have no endurance goals. It's just not my cup of tea. I love strength and other things, but cardio is not my cup of tea. But I do it because I know that my body likes to familiarize itself in the sympathetic state. And so me doing cardio helps discharge all of that energy that gets stored because anxiety is a state that I lived in for so long. Some other ways for the sympathetic, a lot of the same as the ventral vagal. So shaking is one that is specific to this because you have mobilized energy, but also meditation. Now, if you feel a lot of anxious energy, do not meditate because being still is the last thing you need. You got to move it out first and then you can meditate. Co-regulation, once again, with people or pets, focusing on breath, grounding, movement, massage, allowing body sensations. Orienting to the room is a great one, and it's one you can do where people won't notice. So you're just kind of looking around the room, and it's important to move your head because it's moving that brain stem, and then you're just acknowledging like, oh, I see that dumbbell over in that corner, and I see the Peloton bike, and I see my dog, and I see my water bottle, and you're bringing yourself into the room. You're becoming present, and that's very powerful. And then in the dorsal vagal, you're working towards mobilization. So you're feeling immobilized. So this is not the time to force yourself to go on a run because that's the last thing that your body's going to want to do. It's too extreme. It's too far from where you are. So we do smaller movements. Maybe you just start tapping on your body, right? Just bringing sensation, bringing movement, waking up the body. A lot of the same ones I said in the last ones. Wall pushing, so you just push your hands against the wall and find energy, contact points. You're just bringing energy into the body. You're waking it up. So if you're lying on the couch and the last thing you want to do is get up, and maybe you even told yourself like, I need to get up and exercise, or I need to get up and make my dinner or whatever, and you feel zero motivation to do that, try these smaller types of movements, the least amount of movement, tapping or pushing against furniture, and just finding some kind of energy to slightly mobilize so that you can get to a place where you are more mobilized. So I put this here. I'm not going to go through it all, but it gives you ways to move within these states. Then there's lower energy and then there's higher energy movement so that you can kind of find where you are and help use movement to help bring yourself to a state. So you can screenshot this or whatever you want, but there you go. All right, the last step is to release your goals to something bigger than you. So we wrote down the what and the why. We acknowledged our body sensations and feelings. We acknowledged our thoughts. We processed our thoughts and our feelings. We processed our thoughts by challenging them and asking if they're really true. And we processed our emotions by noticing our nervous system state and using some of the tools I just gave you. So the last thing now is to release it. So the biggest problem I see with goal setting is that people have goals and they grip them so tightly. I need this to happen. I want this to happen. And they put all this urgency. And if you're looking at me, you see my fist clenching, you see my jaw clenching, you see my body getting tighter. What state do you think that is? That is sympathetic. Now, the good news is the sympathetic state is mobilizing. So for a lot of you, you're like, what's the problem? I feel super motivated. I'm doing stuff. Like, who cares if I'm tense and all this? I'm motivated to work out. I'm motivated to make money. I'm motivated. You're right. You have tons of mobilization. You are going to be very motivated in this state. The problem is it's not the ventral vagal connected to, it's not the play state, right? It's very much going to be either the freeze state where you feel mobilized, immobilized, mobilized, immobilized, and you're just like bouncing around, or it's just high anxiety, which means burnout, which means you cannot sustain that. That is like driving your car 150 miles per hour and expecting it not to run out of gas. You cannot sustain a goal achievement for your lifetime in the sympathetic state. There will be consequences. So let me say that a different way. You can achieve your goals this way, and you can achieve your goals that way for the rest of your life, but at great sacrifice. It'll be your health, it'll be your family, it'll be your loved ones, it'll be connection. It's tons of sacrifice to achieve goals that way. And I think the best news is you don't have to. You don't have to do it that way. They're like, what a beautiful gift. Like that state is not where we're meant to be operating from. And yes, it's mobilizing and yes, it's motivating, but it doesn't have to be the way. So, what we want to do is release our goals to something bigger. So when we set goals, we tend to put the goals in a chokehold. I gotta make them happen. There's desperation, there's urgency. Our desire to have it consumes us, and we fear if we take our eyes off the prize that we're never gonna get it. And that is a big problem. We forget that our job is to dream it, speak it, and then just live our lives to the fullest right now. So if you've ever been a student of law of attraction, you will hear them say, all you have to do is dream it and speak it and focus on it, and then it'll appear. And then the whole movie, The Secret, which I love, by the way, I love it. I just think that there's some holes in the way that it's taught, and it makes people think like, okay, so you're saying I could just be like, I want a Lamborghini, and then I can like close my eyes and be like, Lamborghini appear, and then boom, there's a Lamborghini in my driveway. And no, that's not how it works, obviously. I think the most important thing is, once again, going back to our state, right? So if we have our goals and then we're in the dorsal vagal state, we're just collapsed, we're numb, we're disconnected, we're withdrawn, then that is not an energy that's going to bring your goals to you, because you're not even attempting to get them, right? You're just collapsed in a ball in the corner of your room crying or rocking or trying to make the world go away. So obviously we're not going to get what we want in that state. And yes, if we're in sympathetic and we're fight or flight, and we're motivated and we're doing things every single day to get our goal, it feels like that's the right state for goal achievement. The problem is we're so fast and we're so busy and we're so in that doing mode, that constant doing mode, there's actually no time energetically for our goals to come to us. Like, we're just in constant motion. It's like, imagine that someone's trying to give you something, but you're running so fast. It's like, wait, here, wait, but come back. I got your, wait, but here you go. And it's like, they can't even give you the goals. You're in constant motion. And by the way, even if you're not doing things, like you're not constantly working or constantly exercising or constantly meal planning or whatever your goals are, and you're like, well, that's not like I'm doing it all the time. Like, sometimes I sit on my phone and numb out, or sometimes I just watch TV. That is not the same as being in a ventral vagal state, which is that actual calm, connected, grounded state where things can actually come into you. So just because you're physically still, if your mind is still going, or your body sensations are still in sympathetic, or if you're not energetically aligned in that ventral vagal state, it's going to be very difficult for your goals to even appear. You have to force them. You have to go get them, right? Because they can't come to you. You're in constant motion. So you have to go make them happen. And it's an energy that's not sustainable, and it's an energy that comes at great sacrifice. So what we want to do is we dream it, we speak it, and then we release it, right? We just go live our lives the way we'd want to live it if we had everything we ever wanted, right? So if your goal is to lose weight and you see your dream life and you're like, when I see myself as someone who's lighter and thinner, I am someone that exercises 20 minutes a day. That is just part of my life because that's what I see myself as at that place. Then go exercise 20 minutes a day. Don't do it to get to the goal. Do it because that's the life you see yourself living at that state. So we just go live our lives. We connect with people. We recognize our body sensations and our thoughts, and we do the habits. And we're going to talk about habits, in the weeks to come. But we just operate in the place that we want to live from, and we don't worry about whether or not the goal is here in front of us yet. Now, with spending, that could be a little bit different. We can't go spend money we don't have and get into debt and put ourselves in the sympathetic or a dorsal vagal state, because now we're like, oh crap, I overextended myself. But it means living the most fulfilling, vibrant life with where you are right now. The best example here is, let's say you wanted a new car, and so you're saving for a new car, you've dreamt about a new car, you've said you wanted a new car, you're energetically aligning with this new car. But right now that car isn't here. So with your current car, are you just going to drive it into a wall and be like, well, I want a new car, so I'm just going to crash this one, and then I'll have no car until that new car shows up? Are you going to still Are you going to stop putting gas in it and change the oil and wash it? No, because the car you have right now is the car you have right now, and it's better than no car. So you live it up. You enjoy the car because hey, you've got a car. It gets you from point A to point B. It runs. It's reliable, right? So we are living to the fullest in the current circumstances that we have. We're vibrant, we're happy, we're energetic, or we're not, and we're acknowledging that. And we're going, look, I got stuff to work on. I am not in a good state. I need to do some of the things that I talked about earlier about how to move through these different nervous system states so that I can feel better. Because I'm never going to have what I want in this state. I don't feel good at all, right? And the goal achievement is not what shifts the state. It's you shifting the state that helps you bring in the goals. So we want to start there. So we don't wait around, but we don't obsess either. We lead with aligned and inspired energy with trust and guidance. And that is the key to all of this is the state that you're in. That's why I spent such a great deal of time talking about states and nervous system states and where you might be in all the different areas of your life. And most likely you'll find some crossover between your different goals and the state that it puts you in. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I believe next week we're going into habits. Yeah, so next week we're going to talk about changing our habits. And there's all kinds of schools of thoughts on that, right? Like there's people that say you have to, 21 days or 30 days. And so we're going to get into all of that. So look forward to seeing everybody there. Otherwise, it was great hanging out with you guys, and questions you can throw in the comments, and I'll see you next time.